My daughter's wedding was beautiful, I know, because I paid for every inch of it, and still wasn't allowed inside. And what happened next will make you question what family really means. And the last thing I did that night will leave you speechless. Rain always has a way of making things look softer, except guilt. That night the sky was bleeding silver and Magnolia Hall glowed like a lantern in the dark. Through the glass doors, laughter spilled out, mingled with the violin's hum and the sound of champagne flutes colliding. Inside was warmth, light, and applause. Outside was me, a father, soaking wet, uninvited to his own daughter's wedding. I watched through the blur of rain, my reflection melting against the glass as if the world itself wanted to erase me. Then the MC's voice thundered through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the father of the bride, Robert Hale." The crowd roared. I froze. Robert Hale. The man who married my daughter's mother's memory, her loyalty, and apparently her gratitude too. The guard by the door, a young man barely old enough to shave, shifted nervously when he saw me step closer. "Sir, I'm sorry. Guests only." "I'm not a guest," I said quietly. "I'm her father." He frowned, eyes darting down to his clipboard. "Your name's not on the guest list, sir." Those words hit harder than any storm. Not on the list. For a second I thought it was a mistake. Maybe my invitation got lost. Maybe there was some misunderstanding, but then I looked through the glass again. Saw her. Emma. My little girl. My world. The same girl who used to dance on my feet in the kitchen. Who used to draw crayon hearts on Father's Day cards. Now she stood in a gown I paid for, smiling at a man who'd replaced me. The guard stepped between me and the door. "Please, sir, don't cause trouble." I almost laughed. Trouble? The trouble was already inside, drinking from glasses I'd bought, under lights I'd paid for. Then the doors opened and she appeared. For a moment the music dimmed, and time folded. Her veil glimmered in the golden light, her eyes shimmering with everything I'd lost. "Dad," she whispered, "please don't make a scene." My heart cracked right down the middle. It wasn't anger I felt. It was something worse. Disbelief so sharp it numbs. "Emma," I said softly, "I just wanted to see you, just for a moment." She looked down, shaking her head. "Hey, it's complicated." That word again. Complicated. The word people use when they've already decided to forget you. Behind her, Robert appeared. Perfect suit, perfect hair, perfect lie. "Everything okay, sweetheart?" he asked, placing a hand on her back. She nodded, not looking at me. "It's fine, he was just leaving." He, not Dad, not my father. Just he. I swallowed hard and reached into my coat pocket. The envelope was damp from the rain, edges curling. Inside were invoices, receipts, wire confirmations, all stamped with the same phrase, "Paid by William Brooks." The flowers she held, the venue she danced in, the dress she wore when she told me to leave. Every beautiful thing inside that hall bore my name, and yet my name wasn't on the door. Through the glass, I saw them raise their glasses high. The MC shouted again, "A toast to the man who made this day possible, Robert Hale." Applause thundered. Laughter followed. I stood there soaked, frozen, invisible, a man erased by his own kindness. Then something in me went still, completely still. Humiliation burned into disbelief, and disbelief hardened into something colder. Resolve. I looked down at the envelope, the ink running, my name dissolving under the rain. They could erase me from the invitations, but not from what came next. I pressed my palm flat against the glass one last time, as if the cold could keep me from breaking. "I built her dream day," I whispered, "and she built a wall to keep me out." I turned away from the golden light into the rain that had been waiting for me all night. "They wanted me forgotten," I said to the dark. "I made sure I'd be unforgettable." You can lose your daughter long before she stops calling you dad. All it takes is one man who decides you don't fit her new life. And the last thing she said to me before she changed her name, that's what still keeps me awake at night. And what happened next will shock you. Grief has a sound. It's not crying. It's the hum of a refrigerator at 3 a.m. when the house is too quiet and the person you love is gone for good. That was the sound of my life after her mother died. Emma was 9, too young to understand what a funeral really meant, but old enough to notice her mother's shoes were still by the door the next morning. She asked me, "Is Mom coming back?" I told her the first lie of my life. She'll always be with us. We moved into a smaller house on the edge of town. 1 story, peeling paint, bad plumbing, but it was ours. Every nail, every patch of dirt, built with my hands. I took extra shifts at the repair shop. She'd wait for me by the window, dinner half cold, her homework spread across the table. We didn't have much, but we had each other. Every night I'd fix something broken, an old toaster, a leaking pipe, and she'd sit next to me, passing tools like a tiny apprentice. She used to say, "Dad, when I grow up, I'll build things like you." And she did. Just not the kind I expected. Years passed. She got smarter, braver, more beautiful than I could handle. The kind of beauty that makes the world pay attention, and men like Robert Hale take notice. He first came to our house one summer afternoon. Perfect suit, perfect smile, perfect timing. He shook my hand like he was closing a deal. I didn't like him from the start. Not because of who he was, but because of how he looked at her, like she was something he could own. Still, I kept my mouth shut. She was happy. That was enough. Or so I told myself. Robert was charming in public, cold in private. He called me sir like it was an inconvenience. When he offered to help with the bills, I refused. Pride is a poor man's armor, but it's all I had left. After a few months, Emma started changing. Not all at once, small things first. She stopped calling on Sundays, missed birthdays. Her laughter on the phone became shorter, tighter. One night, she canceled our dinner saying Robert had made reservations elsewhere. "It's just easier, Dad." Easier. That word stung. Love isn't supposed to be easy, it's supposed to be worth the work. The next time she visited, Robert came with her. He looked around my house like he was inspecting a property. When she went to make coffee, he leaned in and said, "Emma's growing. She deserves to move on from this." He didn't even need to finish. This meant me, the life I'd built, the home that raised her. I didn't say a word. I just nodded, the way you do when you realize you've already lost the argument. Weeks later, I got a letter in the mail, addressed to William Brooks. Inside was a notice from the county clerk. Name change request. Emma Brooks. Emma Hale. I sat at the kitchen table for hours, staring at the paper like it might rewrite itself. Every nail, every sacrifice, every late-night repair job. I'd built her name from nothing. And with one signature, she traded it for his. When she finally called, her voice was soft, careful. "Dad, I didn't want you to find out like that," I asked. "Why now?" She hesitated. "It's just a fresh start, new chapter." "You don't need to erase me to build a life," I said. "I'm not erasing you, Dad. I'm just starting fresh." The line was quiet. I could hear her breathing, steady and distant. I wanted to scream, to remind her of everything we'd survived together. But what came out was just a whisper. Then why does it feel like goodbye? She didn't answer. After that call, her visits stopped completely. The house went silent again. Same hum, same emptiness. But something inside me changed. I used to fix things for a living. Now I realized some things are meant to stay broken. Her fresh start smelled like expensive perfume and champagne. Mine smelled like motor oil and rain. She built a new world with polished walls and perfect lighting. But even perfect things rot from the inside when they're built on lies. That's when I stopped waiting for her to come back and started planning for the day she'd finally remember who taught her how to build. Because the thing about good fathers, they never stay erased forever. Imagine signing every check for a wedding you're not welcome at. Now imagine realizing they planned it that way, and the last paper I open that night will make you question what love costs when it's weaponized. The news didn't come from her. It came from Mark, a coworker I hadn't seen in months. He caught me in the grocery aisle, all casual smiles and small talk. "Hey, Bill," he said, tossing a six-pack into his cart. "Didn't know your daughter was tying the knot next month. Congrats, man." My stomach dropped. "What did you just say?" He frowned, confused. "Emma. The engagement party's all over social media. Beautiful venue. That guy Robert, right? Seems like a real catch." I forced a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Yeah, thanks." Then I went home and opened my phone. There it was. Her engagement post, her smile, his hand on her waist, 1,000 likes. Not one call to me. That night, I dialed her number. My hand was shaking so hard I nearly dropped the phone. She answered after the third ring. "Dad?" "You're getting married?" I asked, trying to sound calm. She paused. "It's complicated." That word again. The one that always came before she shut me out. "Complicated how? You couldn't tell your own father?" "It just happened fast. We were going to call." "We, not I." I could almost hear him in the background, his voice low, polished, controlling. "Right," I said quietly. "Of course. You were busy." The silence between us stretched until it snapped. She said she'd call again soon. She didn't. A week later, I got an email from Robert. Subject line: "Need your help with some documents." He wrote like he was doing me a favor. "Emma says you've handled contracts before. Could you look over these and sign as financial guarantor? Just a formality." I should have questioned it. I didn't. Not yet. Because fathers want to believe their children still trust them. So I printed the documents. Page after page of legal terms, vendor lists, deposits. I signed where the sticky notes told me to sign. At the bottom of each page, I saw my name, William Brooks. The payments were already arranged. Direct transfer from my business account. I assumed it was something small, maybe a deposit for her new apartment or a car. It wasn't until the next morning, when my bank sent me the transfer alert, that I realized the numbers didn't add up. I opened the email again, downloaded the attachments. The first page read, "Contract, Magnolia Hall Wedding Services." My chest tightened as I scrolled faster. Florist, catering, photographer, music, dress, rings, venue. Every item signed and paid. Every line ending with the same 3 words, "Paid by William Brooks." The same William Brooks who wasn't even invited. For a moment I couldn't breathe. My hands went numb. Then I did what I always do when I don't understand something. I organized it. I spread every paper out across my kitchen table one by one. Invoices, receipts, wire confirmations, the evidence of my own humiliation. The table looked like a crime scene, not of violence but of trust. Each sheet a wound, each signature a scar. The flowers, $3,800. The venue, $12,000. The dress, $4,600. The band, $2,500. The total, everything I had left. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the mess. My daughter's wedding looked beautiful on paper. My ruin was printed beneath it. The clock ticked in the background, steady, merciless. For a long time, I just sat there in silence, the kind that presses against your ribs. When I finally stood up, the room spun. I turned off the light, but the numbers burned behind my eyelids like after images. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Emma. "Thanks for helping out, Dad. You've always been so generous." No invitation, no call, just gratitude written like a receipt. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Something inside me cracked, but not like glass, like metal bending. Quiet, slow, permanent. I looked around my empty house. The walls were covered with memories. Her school photos, her graduation picture, a drawing she'd made in 3rd grade, me holding her hand, both of us smiling under a crooked sun. She'd written one line at the bottom in blue crayon. My hero. I took it off the wall. The tape peeled away, leaving a faint square of dust behind. That's when I realized something simple and cruel. Love can be weaponized. They took mine, wrapped it in ribbon, and mailed me the bill. I folded the papers carefully, slid them back into the envelope, and set it on the table. Then I turned off the last light in the house. The darkness felt different that night, not empty but focused. I wasn't her father anymore, not in the way that mattered. That night I stopped being William Brooks, the man who paid for love, and became something else. The man they should never have underestimated. They thought I was too broken to fight back. They forgot I build things for a living, and this time I built a memory they'd never erase. And the last thing I set in motion that night will make you question what revenge really means. Rage doesn't come loud. It starts quiet, measured, like the sound of a pencil marking a plan. After that night with the invoices, something inside me shifted, not like a snap, more like a click, a gear falling into place. I spent 30 years fixing machines, cars, generators, electrical systems. If something broke, I didn't panic. I studied it. Every system, no matter how perfect, has a weakness, and people are no different. Robert Hale's weakness was vanity. He needed everything to look perfect. Emma's was trust. She believed appearances could rewrite history. Together, they built a lie so polished it gleamed. But I had built the foundation, and the foundation always remembers who laid the first brick. That was my leverage. My name was still on the vendor contracts, the deposits, the service agreements, the system maintenance requests. I had paid for them after all, which meant I still had access. So I started calling. Calm, polite, methodical. The first call was to the venue's event manager. "Hi, this is William Brooks," I said, voice steady. "I'm confirming the final media delivery for Saturday's wedding. I'll need the upload credentials for the presentation loop." No hesitation. "Yes, of course, Mr. Brooks," she said. "Same link as before." She didn't even question it. My name was still in the payment column. That's when the plan became real. I didn't want violence. I didn't want chaos. I wanted precision. A single moment that would freeze every smile in that room. The slideshow was Robert's idea. "A beautiful timeline of our love story," he'd said in one interview. A local photographer posted about it online. The Hales are planning something truly emotional. I found the folder in the shared cloud account. Emma Plus, Robert Wedding Slideshow, final.mp4. The thumbnails showed their vacations, engagement, family photos, all staged to perfection. I watched exactly 8 seconds before I deleted it. Then I started building mine. I called it Truth Montage. The first frame, Emma, age 6, sitting on my shoulders covered in paint after helping me redo her bedroom walls. The second, a home video, her 8th birthday, blowing out candles while shouting, "I wish Mommy was here, but Dad's the best." Then the tone shifted. Receipts, checks, screenshots of transfers, each one stamped with "paid" by William Brooks. No narration at first, just soft piano. Then my voice, slow, even, deliberate. For 18 years, I carried her world on my shoulders. Every scraped knee, every bedtime story, every broken thing made whole again. When her mother died, I built a life out of what was left. I built her dreams. I built this day. The switched. Next section faded into a photo of Emma at graduation, hugging me tight. The kind of hug that said thank you for everything. Then, the name change document. Emma Brooks, Emma Hale. Over it, my voice again. Some people say love means letting go, but love shouldn't mean being erased. The screen cut to black, then a single white line. You erased my name from your wedding, but you'll never erase who paid for it. No anger, no screaming, just truth. That's all I needed. The night before the wedding, I sat in my truck across the street from Magnolia Hall. The building was glowing under the city lights, all white marble and glass. I could see staff moving inside, setting tables, adjusting lights, testing speakers. The rain had started again. Not heavy this time, just steady enough to blur the edges of everything. I rested my hands on the steering wheel, knuckles pale. For the first time in months, my breathing was calm. Revenge wasn't about rage anymore. It was about balance. I pulled out my laptop, opened the control panel for the hall's AV system, my credentials still active. With one drag and drop, truthmontage.mp4 replaced weddinggribbisher final.mp4. A progress bar filled the screen. 98%, 99%, 100%. Done. The cursor blinked, waiting for another command. There was nothing left to do. I leaned back and listened to the rain on the windshield, each drop tapping like a clock counting down to midnight. That's when doubt whispered for the first time. Was I going too far? Would she hate me more for this? But then I remembered her voice, soft, detached, saying, "It's complicated." How easily she had buried me under that word. How Robert had called me sir like an inconvenience. No, this wasn't cruelty. It was clarity. She needed to see what she'd done. I reached over to the passenger seat, picked up the envelope of invoices, the same ones that started it all. I ran my thumb across the top one. The ink was faded from the rain that night, but still legible. Paid by William Brooks. 3 words that had built her entire fairy tale. I thought about the irony, how much of my life I'd spent repairing other people's mistakes. But this time I wasn't fixing, I was building. Constructing something that would last longer than flowers, longer than vows, a memory that would never die. The rain softened, then stopped altogether. The silence outside the truck was thick, electric. Inside the hall, I could see the tech team testing the screen. My screen. The first frame flickered for half a second before they switched it off, satisfied. I smiled. Tomorrow, when they pressed play, the truth would do what truth always does. It would burn through the lies, slow and unstoppable. I closed the laptop, leaned back in the seat, and whispered to the empty night, They wanted a perfect wedding. I gave them a perfect reckoning. They toasted to the man who made this day possible. They just didn't know it was me. And the last thing that played on that screen will make you question what justice really looks like. The night was perfect. At least, that's how the guests would describe it later. Magnolia Hall shimmered under 1,000 crystal lights. The band played soft jazz. Every corner smelled like roses and money. Photographers moved through the crowd like ghosts, their flashes capturing a story that wasn't real. Emma looked stunning. A white lace gown that caught every flicker of gold, her hair pinned like a sculpture. She laughed, too brightly, too carefully, as though she knew the cameras would catch every blink. Robert hovered beside her, a glass of champagne in hand, a man basking in borrowed light. Everything was rehearsed to perfection. Even the lie. From the far edge of the parking lot, I watched through the glass. I could see her smile, see him take her hand, see the life I'd built from the outside. Again. It felt like watching my own funeral. Then the MC's voice echoed across the ballroom. Ladies and gentlemen, a toast to the man who made this beautiful day possible, Mr. Robert Hale. Applause thundered. Cameras flashed. Robert raised his glass like a king acknowledging his subjects. Emma's face froze for half a second, long enough for me to know she felt the sting too. But the show had to go on. The music softened. Lights dimmed. The MC smiled toward the giant screen. And now let's relive their journey, an emotional look back at the story of Emma and Robert. The guests turned. The room hushed. The screen came alive. The first image appeared. Not a photo of them. A picture of Emma, 8 years old, sitting on my shoulders, paint on her cheeks, sunlight in her hair. Laughter rippled uncertainly through the crowd. Then came the second clip, Emma blowing out candles on her birthday, shouting over the noise, "Dad, make a wish too." Her voice echoed through the hall, innocent and small, louder than the band had ever been. The room went still. The next image, me holding her bicycle steady while she learned to ride. Then graduation day, her arms around my neck, her smile, real, unguarded, pure. My voice filled the speakers. For 18 years, I was her everything, her builder, her safety net. When the world broke, I fixed it. When she fell, I caught her. I carried her dreams until she could stand on her own. People began whispering. Some looked confused, others uncomfortable. Emma's hand trembled on her bouquet. Robert's smile vanished. Then the tone changed. The next frame, an invoice. Venue, Magnolia Hall, paid by William Brooks. Another, florist, the garden kimono, paid by William Brooks. Another, wedding gown, $4,600, paid by William Brooks. The piano music continued, calm, almost mournful. Robert lunged toward the technician. "Turn it off, now." The technician shook his head, stammering. I can't, it's locked." The slideshow kept going. A bank transfer receipt. A photo of the signed contracts. My name at the bottom of every one. Then my voice again. "They say love is about giving. I gave her everything. I built the walls that hold her happiness tonight, and she built a door that locks from the inside." Someone gasped. A woman near the front covered her mouth. The whispers turned to murmurs, then silence. Even the band stopped playing. The screen flickered one last time. White letters appeared on a black background. "You erased my name from your wedding, but you'll never erase who paid for it." The lights came back on. No one moved. Emma's bouquet slipped from her hand. petals scattering across the marble floor. Robert's face burned red. He looked like a man stripped naked in public. The MC tried to recover, muttering something about a technical issue, but no one was listening. Phones were already out recording. Some guests left their seats. Others just stared at the screen, replaying what they'd seen in their heads. Emma stood frozen, tears cutting through her makeup. She looked around for Robert, but he was already walking away, jaw clenched, eyes cold. And me? I stayed outside. I didn't need to see the chaos. I could hear it, the shuffling, the whispers, the collapsing illusion. The sound of truth arriving always starts small. Then it swells. Through the glass, I saw her turn toward the door, toward me. For the first time in years, her eyes found mine. She didn't look angry, just lost. Like she finally understood the cost of forgetting where she came from. I didn't move, I didn't wave, I didn't need to. Everything I'd ever wanted to say was already said. Not with words, but with evidence, with memory. Behind her, reporters were whispering, phones buzzing. The night that was supposed to make Robert Hale look untouchable had just turned him into a fraud. And her, she would have to live with both truths. That she had broken the man who built her dreams, and that he'd built her one last lesson before walking away. I stepped back into the shadows. Rain started again, soft, deliberate, cleansing. It tapped against the pavement like applause meant only for me. Revenge isn't loud. It doesn't shout or rage. It's precise. It's surgical. And when it's done right, it sounds just like silence. The doors of Magnolia Hall burst open behind me. Voices spilled out, shouts, sobs, confusion. But I kept walking. Each step away from that place felt lighter. Not because I'd won, because I'd stopped being invisible. Somewhere behind me, the music had stopped for good. The wedding was over. The performance was done. All that was left was truth, projected on a screen they'd never forget. The rain washed the streets clean. My reflection in the puddle was calm, steady. For the first time in years, I recognized the man staring back. They toasted to the man who made this day possible, I murmured. And they were right. I walked into the night, the storm swallowing my footsteps, leaving behind nothing but silence.